What was that gnarly injury? Like, I didn't get that far in.
I had a few. There's one that really kind of shook me, my family, and the community that we lived in. Was I crashed with Bob Burnquist. And that was really bad.
Oh, on a Mega?
That was, no, I was 11 years old. It was an MTV Sports and Music Festival. Were you there?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, this is way back. I think Jamie Foxx was hosting. He showed up with an afro and these huge socks and was like skateboarding like a little dartboard, like a banana board around the vert ramp chasing me. There's like some funny footage that we found digging through the archive, but I was doing a doubles routine with Bob and we collided mid-session. And I was it was a one-sided fist fight. I mean, he clobbered me. And so I broke my hand, I broke my foot, and I fractured my skull.
Fuck.
And then I get home and I cruise into school and the teacher just looks at me, starts crying. Everybody's like, it was a really heavy thing that happened. And what was crazy about it was the reaction of the community we lived in, because they're like, oh, you guys got what you deserved. You're doing these sports that we don't understand, and look what happened to your son. Like, this was a matter of time before this happened. Not like, because we knew we don't normally do doubles. You don't normally do these things. It's not like I tried some big trick and took this crash. It was like an accident. But, the school tightened up on me, like leaving to go on, trips for competition. Everything kind of got weird. And then, as a family, like, what do you do when your mom and dad, and you're like, God, everybody's looking at us like those terrible parents that.
Now, being that young and taking a slam like that, do your parents take a step back and maybe reconsider, like, letting you go forward into chasing this dream of snowboarding or skateboarding?
So I don't want to give away too much of the dog, but there's this beautiful interview with my mom where she's talking about it. He's like, so what do we do now? What's next? She's like, well, I just got to get him back on the ramp. And they're like,
whoa,
what?
That's awesome.
And you go, okay, if your kid was in a car accident, you're not like, let's just get him behind the wheel. We got to get him back in there,
Yeah.
It's Talladega Nights. What are you talking about? So she really was there to be like, I know he loves it, because I did. I would cry if I couldn't go to the skate park after school. It was my punishment. Like, if you don't do the dishes, you can't go skate tomorrow. And I'm like, scrubbing all the dishes, So I just truly loved it. And so she knew that if I, had this, you got to get back on the horse. And if this one incident, like, kept me from a career and a lifetime love of this sport and friendships and this, like, everything I was going to get from it, she didn't want to prevent that. So she actually, like, helped guide me back into skateboarding. I remember the day I was at the skate park, and because I after the crash, the cast finally came off. I was like, I don't know, I just didn't want to skate anymore. I was over it. And she finally convinced me to go to the skate park, and I skated up to the fence, and I was like, I'm over it. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to quit. She's like, all right, well, I paid $5 for you to do this session, so you're going to finish the session. And I was like, you know what I mean? Like, just such a mom comment. You're like, well, I paid $5, so you're staying. I was like, fine. I remember running over to the vert ramp. I was killing some time, and I bumped into Kevin Staub, renowned skateboarder, legendary guy. Yeah. You can spot his hair from a mile away. And he taught me basically backside airs that day. I could only do frontside airs. And you know what I mean? That feeling of learning a new trick, I was just like, I was hooked all over again. And so that's what got me back into skating. But yeah, those injuries are something that's like, it's a hard thing to bounce back from, and a hard thing to get not only your physical, but like your mental straight.
Especially a fractured skull.
Yeah, that was rough. And what happened was when I fractured my skull, the blood had pooled on my forehead, and what's called a hematoma, and then all the blood settled in my eyes. Ooh. And so I just had these crazy black eyes.
Why the teacher cried.
Oh yeah, I looked like I cast on my arm and my leg. I like hobbling into class, and they just looked at me like, what happened?
When Kevin Staub teaches you a backside air, is it like an early grab or a late grab situation?
I think it was late grab, because I could already... I envied another kid that skated at the park. What was his name? I think Steve something. He was a bit older than me, and he was the sweetest guy ever. Super, super nice. But he skated for Birdhouse, and I was like, I hate this guy. Like, he's got to go. You know what I mean? I just created this, like, I don't want to say enemy, but like someone to rival with, because I wanted to be friends with Tony. He was already on Birdhouse. I was like, but I remember the way that he would ollie before he got to the top of the ramp, but I hit the coping with my wheels, and so that's how I kind of figured that I could maybe start going higher than him, because I'm already starting at a a different way, I guess you could say. But yeah, I remember learning it that day, and just like that feeling, and then it just opened up this whole new world of tricks for me, and then it just kind of like went from there.
Yeah. When did the airbags come in to the snowboarding? And was that all you? I seem to think it was all you.
Pretty much. Most of it was inspired. See, I was learning new tricks. Just, you could basically show up and you're, all right, today's the day. I'm going to go for this thing. I'm going to wing it. And what happened was a lot of guys in the backcountry started doing these double flips. And they're doing double flips because in the backcountry, it's deep snow. It's powder. It's a natural airbag. They can just chuck whatever, make mistakes, but then it's all good. And so there's no real way to replicate that in the half pipe. So I started kind of thinking about it. And I had gone to one of those Woodward camps where they have the big foam pits for the gymnastics. And then I saw Pastrana trying his double backflips into the foam pit. I'm like, why? The technology exists. Why don't we tap into this? And I can learn some tricks. And so I linked together with the sponsor, and we created this half pipe setup with the foam pit. And it was supposed to be this big secret. And then it just became this very well-known secret that I was doing it. And so my competitors, in a rush to keep up with me, were like, they called their sponsors, and they're like, well, we got to buy foam and ship it out and build a container for it and all these things. And they're like, well, why don't we do this airbag thing? And so that kind of started the airbag trend. And I was a little annoyed. I was like, why didn't I think of the airbag? It's like way easier. The blocks were all getting, snowed on and then freezing overnight and shit. Like it wasn't.
So you did the foam pit and your competitors did the airbag?
Yeah, to combat what I was doing. And I was like, dang, I didn't even think of the airbag. That's way easier.
Wow.
And so, but that's how it all started, And that was around 2006 for that. 2010 for the Vancouver Olympics.
For Vancouver, right. Okay. That was... Dude, that's crazy, man. That's good. It makes so much sense that the foam is gonna freeze.
Oh yeah, it'd get wet. It would freeze. You're losing your goggles, and then the worst part is that when you go into a foam pit, it's not a pleasant feeling. And when you have a board on your feet, like you're stuck. I couldn't get to my feet. So the first jump, I go in, and that awful feeling of like you're suffocating, like the goggles are over my face, and I'm just claustrophobic in the bottom of the pit, and everybody's sitting there watching for good 15, like, oh, he can't get out. And then like, so then at a certain point, I had my dad was just like lifeguard. He would just like come unstrap me and pull me out. But I became more nervous of the airbag than the foam pit of how I was going to end up in it. But it's not foolproof. I ended up, when I was learning the double McTwist, I landed in the foam, and the way the foam works is it's like, it kicks back, it's springy. And so as I landed in it, I compressed, and then it started to push back, and my momentum's still carrying me forward. So I felt this like in my ankle, and so I chipped a piece of bone landing in the foam pit, and that's what ended that whole session. I was like, oh, I can't ride anymore.
It ended the session.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so Danny Way-esque.
Yeah.
Like how many surgeries are like have you done like ACLs and all that stuff?
Man, so I really kind of pride myself that my career was really built off me landing on my feet. I've watched some docs and talked to Danny and these guys, and like, man, I had the bad accident when I was a kid, so it was a broken hand, foot, and then the skull.
But that's not really a joint.
Yeah, that's not like a thing. And so I think it wasn't until I was 16 I had a small tear in the lateral side of my meniscus, which is the padding in between in your knee that keeps you kind of.
Is that what happened to Isaac meniscus?
I think so, yeah.
Out of all the knee injuries, that's the lesser
ACL.
evil. That's the one you want, because it's like they can come in, they clean it up, and you're good to go. Where the other ones, you either have to reattach a ligament or tendon, or you have to get a cadaver.
Right, you
and
know what?
hope it takes.
Yeah, Isaac got the cadaver. It's an ACL. Isaac did.
Yeah. So that one, luckily, I didn't have to deal with. And then I ripped a ligament in my thumb. A lot of concussions, unfortunately. And then the big crash in New Zealand where I kind of ripped my face open, which really sucked. That one was brutal. But that was kind of it.
Do you like shopping on Amazon? I do. And good news is, Steve-O's butt wipes for your butthole are available on Amazon. And if you want a real bundle of a deal, you can get Steve-O's hot sauce for your butthole, plus Steve-O's butthole destroyer, and Steve-O's butt wipes for your butthole. It's the butthole bundle, available on Amazon right now. Yeah, dude.